First story. My entitled SIL asked me about my miscarriage. I believe it was the best thing that had happened to me, so I said, I'm glad I had that miscarriage. Now my SIL is harassing me, claiming I don't deserve my children and that I'm an unfit mother. Everyone took her side and is harassing me. I used to be in a really toxic relationship. I'm not even going to pretend it was all his fault. I was pathetic. A pushover. I didn't want to be difficult. I let people walk all over me, and in my early 20s, I somehow convinced myself that made me easy to love. Spoiler, it doesn't. I thought my ex was dependable. He wasn't kind, or sweet, or even funny, but he always knew what he wanted, and he said it like it was fact. I thought that was strength. I mistook controlling behavior for confidence. I told myself I needed someone like him, because I was too scared to make choices on my own. When I got pregnant, I was a mess. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't ready to be a mum, not even close. I was terrified, ashamed, and completely out of my depth. I told him, hoping maybe he'd say we'd figure it out together. What he said was, "We'll keep it. I'll take care of you. Don't worry." That was it. Decision made. No discussion. He wasn't asking. And I went along with it, because that's what I did, went along with everything. He didn't even consider what I wanted. And I didn't speak up because I was afraid he'd be mad, or worse, disappointed in me. That was my entire personality back then. Avoiding conflict like it would kill me. He didn't want me to tell anyone. Said people wouldn't understand. He wasn't entirely wrong, my family would have flipped. But looking back, it's clear he didn't want them to know, because he didn't want anyone interfering. So I stopped talking to people. Ghosted my friends. Avoided my parents. I thought I was being mature and protecting them from the scandal of an unplanned pregnancy. What I was actually doing was isolating myself while I fell apart. I moved in with him full time. The apartment was tiny, dark, and depressing. I was sick almost every day, couldn't keep food down, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about how completely screwed I was. But I kept going through the motions like it would somehow all make sense later. And then I miscarried. I'd been feeling like crap for days, and suddenly the pain got worse. Cramping, bleeding, dizziness. I ended up in the ER, barely conscious. They said I almost didn't make it. I had lost a dangerous amount of blood and had to be monitored overnight. I remember lying there thinking, is this what it takes for me to wake up? Callum didn't even spend the night at the hospital. He left after they stabilized me and said he'd check in tomorrow. My mum showed up the next day. I hadn't even called her, one of the nurses did. Using the emergency contact info I hadn't bothered to update. She cried when she saw me. Full on broke down. I hadn't seen her in 3 months. That was the first time I realized how messed up I had let things get. I went home with my parents after that. Callum didn't fight it. He just faded out like I had imagined him. Like he'd only existed because I let him. I blocked his number and never spoke to him again. The weeks after that were rough, but they were also clarifying. My friends started showing up again. They brought meals, made me laugh, and helped me feel normal. Nobody said, "I told you so." Nobody threw it in my face. They were just there. I got into therapy. Took a long, hard look at the way I let people treat me. It was ugly. But I kept working on myself. Eventually, things got better. I got a steady job, started living on my own again, and even dated a little. And then I met David. Different doesn't even begin to cover it. He's gentle, but not a pushover. Calm without being cold. He actually listens. The first time I brought up the miscarriage, I expected him to judge me or get awkward. He didn't. He just said, "That must have been really hard. I'm glad you're okay." That was it. No judgment. No weird pity. Just support. We got married a few years later. We have 2 boys now, 6 and 4. They're absolute tornadoes, and I love them to death. We talk openly in our house. When they're older, they'll know everything about me, about the baby, about how life doesn't always go in a straight line. Which brings me to a few weeks ago. We had a family reunion. It was just the usual backyard BBQ at my parents' place. Everyone was their cousins, aunts, uncles, their kids, and my husband's sister, Rochelle. Now, Rochelle is complicated. We get along fine on the surface. But she's always been cold in this subtle, passive-aggressive way. Like, she'll smile and compliment my hair, but also somehow turn it into a dig about how bold I've gotten. Whatever. I keep it civil. She's also still friends with Callum. Apparently, they stayed in touch after the breakup, which I didn't even realize until a couple of years ago. She's never actually said anything supportive or critical about what happened, just stayed completely neutral. But she brought him up at the reunion. We were sitting at the outdoor table, mid-lunch, and she goes, "Do you ever think about the baby you lost? That must have been so traumatic." I said, "Yeah, of course I think about it." But I also said something that clearly set her off. I said, "Honestly, I'm glad that baby didn't make it. If it had, I would have been stuck with Callum. My life would have gone in a completely different, much darker direction. That miscarriage might have been the most painful thing I've ever gone through, but it saved me." There was this long pause. A few people kind of shifted in their seats. My mum looked like she didn't know how to respond. David, bless him, reached over and gave my leg a small squeeze under the table. Then he started talking about the ribs, cracking a joke about how his cholesterol was going to hate him later. Conversation moved on. Nobody said anything else about it. But I noticed Rochelle looked off. Not upset exactly, more like smug. Like she'd gotten the reaction she was fishing for. I didn't regret what I said. I still don't. I wasn't trying to be edgy or shocking. It was just the truth. I don't think every loss has to be sacred. I don't think every pregnancy is a blessing. That one wasn't. It was a trap, and the miscarriage broke the chain. That's not something I'm going to pretend I mourn forever. Anyway, that should have been the end of it. Except a few days later, Rochelle went full Facebook philosopher. She posted this long arse status about how some people think it's okay to be happy their child died, and how motherhood is more than biology, and not every woman deserves the title. She never said my name, but come on. Everyone knew. Worse, people commented. A lot. And most of them agreed. Saying stuff like, "That's so disturbing," and "Some people shouldn't have kids if that's how they think." One said, "That woman sounds sociopathic." That one stuck with me. David saw it first. He was pissed. Left a comment calling her out, nothing aggressive. Just said if she had something to say to me, she should do it directly instead of posting cryptic trash on social media. She deleted the post maybe an hour later, but the damage was done. I had already read it. I saw the names of people agreeing with her. Some of them were people I knew. People I thought were decent. And now I can't stop thinking about it. Did I cross a line? Was I too honest? I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just told the truth. But now I'm second-guessing everything. I didn't say it with malice. I didn't sit at that table and laugh about losing a child. I wasn't gloating. I was talking about how a horrific, painful moment ended up being a fork in the road that took me somewhere better. And yeah, if I'm being brutally honest, I'm relieved it happened the way it did. I think people hear, "I'm glad my baby didn't make it," and immediately picture some heartless monster. But that's not what I meant. That pregnancy didn't happen in a bubble. It wasn't this wholesome little miracle that got tragically cut short. It was happening inside the most miserable period of my life, in a relationship that was slowly killing me, where I was isolated, scared, and not eating or sleeping. I was breaking down mentally and physically, and I had no one, because he made sure of that. If that baby had been born, I'd still be tied to that man. I'd be fighting him in court, dealing with custody battles, and living half my life under his thumb. I'd have a child caught in the middle of all that toxicity. I wouldn't be with my husband. I wouldn't have my 2 boys. And I wouldn't be the person I am today. So yeah, I'm glad that version of my life ended. Even if it came through something as devastating as a miscarriage. But apparently, that's not a thing you're allowed to say out loud. Since Rochelle deleted the post, she hasn't reached out. But I've seen her at a couple of family things since, and she acts like I'm the one who should be embarrassed. She gives me these tight, polite smiles and avoids eye contact, like she's doing me a favor by not bringing it up again. A few people from the reunion have checked in privately. One cousin told me she respected how open I was. Another messaged me saying she didn't know what to say at the time, but that what I shared made her think about some stuff from her own past. So it's not like everyone turned against me. But still, I can't shake the weight of those comments under Rochelle's post. The way people were so quick to agree. So quick to dehumanize me without knowing the full story. I guess that's the risk of being honest about things people only know how to talk about in hushed tones. My husband has been amazing through all of it. He told me he's proud of me for not hiding anymore. That I don't owe anyone a prettier version of the truth, just to make them more comfortable. And I believe him. But part of me still wonders maybe I should have said it differently. Maybe I shouldn't have said it at all. I don't regret what I feel. But I wonder if I should have protected other people from hearing it. I didn't bring it up to be dramatic. I wasn't trying to make a statement. Rochelle asked, and I answered honestly. It's not like I went on some rant. I said what I said in a quiet voice, in a room full of adults who could have just moved on. But they didn't. She didn't. And now I'm left questioning myself again. Not about what happened back then, I've worked through that. But about how people respond when you say something that breaks the narrative. I'm not asking for sympathy. I just want to know if I went too far. I guess that maybe I should not have said that, as it may be a sensitive topic. AITA. Comments. Comment 1. Not for feeling that way, but for saying it so bluntly. You can feel relief or even gratitude that your life took a different turn. But putting it out there so directly, especially in a group setting, is risky. You never know what others are carrying. Your SIL is obviously an ah here for putting you on blast publicly. But yeah, next time maybe a little more tact wouldn't hurt. Comment 2. I'm going to say nah here. I understand you were in a SHTTY relationship, but maybe someone within hearing distance had lost a child. And hearing you say you were happy about that could be upsetting. I've heard a woman say cancer was the best thing for her marriage in front of someone who lost a sibling to it. So while it may be true for you, it's the kind of thing I'd personally keep private or say in a smaller group. That said, your SIL weaponizing that moment on social media was out of line. That makes her look way worse than you. Comment 3. NTA. There might have been a better way to word it, sure, but you're allowed to feel what you feel. You didn't intentionally lose your baby. You were sick, overwhelmed, and in a toxic relationship that made everything worse. That miscarriage changed the trajectory of your life. That doesn't make you a monster. SIL and your ex sound like a fun pair of people. Sarcasm. And she absolutely had no reason to put your pain out there for social commentary. Don't let her manipulate your truth. Update. Hi everyone. I wasn't sure if I should come back to post an update, but I wanted to thank the people who took time to comment on my original post, both those who supported me and those who challenged me. I appreciated the different perspectives, especially the ones that helped me see why what I said, while true for me, might have landed poorly for others. So here's what happened since Rochelle found the post. Someone either showed her, or she lurks here, who knows. She confronted my husband via text and accused me of airing family laundry and painting her as a arsehole. She demanded I take it down too late, and that I clarify publicly that I didn't mean to call her out. I didn't respond directly. I honestly don't owe her a performance. But I did end up talking to my in-laws, her parents, because they reached out after things started feeling tense at family gatherings. I explained everything calmly, exactly like I had at the reunion. That I wasn't celebrating the miscarriage, just acknowledging that it changed my life in a way I eventually grew from. I told them I wasn't ashamed of saying that out loud, but I understood that the words could be hard for others to hear. They appreciated the honesty and admitted that Rochelle has always been a little dramatic online. My Mill actually said, if you can't handle a real conversation, maybe don't bring it up at dinner. So that was validating. I also ended up having a short talk with Rochelle. Not planned, she came up to me at a family event last weekend. She said she respected my healing journey. I roll, but still thought what I said was triggering and deeply inappropriate. I told her I wasn't looking for her approval, and that if she didn't want real answers, she shouldn't ask pointed questions. We haven't talked since. My husband's been solid through all of this. He told me again, he's proud of me for not letting anyone rewrite my story to make it more digestible. My therapist, yes, I've still been going, also helped me unpack a lot of the guilt I started to carry after the backlash. It's not gone, but I've made peace with the fact that my truth doesn't need to be palatable to be valid. So yeah, no dramatic blowout. No family exile. Just some tension, some honesty, and a bit more clarity about where I stand in all of it. Thanks again to everyone who commented. You helped me feel seen. Second story. Entitled SIL accused me of being jealous for attending her baby shower after my miscarriage and demanded that I give her my baby crib and the stuff I got for my baby shower because I don't deserve children. Then my bill called me a bee for refusing, so my husband physically fought my bill and went NC. Now I'm pregnant and scared of losing a baby for the third time. I 27F have been with my husband 31M for 6 years and married for just over 2. We have a really strong, loving relationship. I met him through his younger brother, Mark 28M, who I've known since I was around 17. Back then, Mark was in a dramatic, on and off relationship with Sarah, now his wife. They were that couple people constantly gossiped about, joked about how long they'd last, who would cheat first, and how many kids they'd end up having. I never considered them toxic per se, just unstable. I admit, I joined in on the gossip here and there, but it was high school and not something I ever thought would carry into adulthood. Years later in college, I ran into Mark again. He was single at the time, and we started hanging out casually. He introduced me to his roommate, and we all hung out a few times. Not close friends, but friendly. One night I attended a party his roommate was hosting. TW. That night changed my life. I was sawed by Mark's roommate while I was blackout drunk and then abandoned at the house. It was traumatic beyond words. I was lucky to have amazing friends, including Mark, who supported me. Mark encouraged me to report it, and I did, but nothing meaningful came from it at the time. Eventually another girl came forward saying he had tried to forcefully kiss her, which helped validate my case a little. But the university still didn't take much action. The university claimed the guy had exceptional performance and deep regret, and simply banned him from being around me, whatever that meant, and sent him to counseling. In the same building as me, Mark ended up moving in with his brother, my husband. I would visit occasionally, and that's how we met. My husband was gentle, patient, and truly helped put me back together. I had completely lost my sense of self, and he slowly, lovingly helped me find it again. I'll never forget how safe I felt with him after all that darkness. Sarah, however, has not been quite welcoming. She's accused me of liking Mark, completely untrue and disturbing, honestly. Yes, Mark and I used to bicker like siblings, but it was never anything remotely romantic. I've only ever seen him as a friend, and now just family. But Sarah seems to have held on to this weird narrative. We've always had some minor friction, passive-aggressive digs, cold shoulders, and the occasional pointed comment. My Mill has always had a soft spot for me. She's openly said how much she appreciates me. She was thrilled when we got married. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't hide her jealousy. She even made snide remarks about how I locked him down so quickly. We dated for about 4 years before marrying. She and Mark were together on and off for nearly a decade before tying the knot. A few months ago, I had a miscarriage. It crushed me. I didn't know a heart could break that way. And during that time, she brought up my abortion while I was grieving my miscarriage. A few months into our relationship, I had an abortion. I was self-harming, emotionally wrecked, and in absolutely no place to carry a pregnancy. It was not a decision I took lightly, but it was necessary. My husband supported me completely. I don't know what she exactly said as she was outside my room, but I could hear snippets, and it wasn't very positive. It was cruel, and I mentioned it to my husband, who defended me and told her off. But I have maintained distance since. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. Sarah is pregnant, and we were genuinely happy for them. We showed up for her baby shower with gifts, but I was quietly emotional because it reminded me of the baby shower I never got to have. I wasn't jealous, just a little heartbroken. I smiled through it, but being surrounded by everything I lost brought a lot of quiet pain. But Sarah pulled me aside at her shower and accused me of being jealous and of trying to steal her moment. I stayed calm and tried to explain that I was just a bit emotional. But when she wouldn't listen, I put on a happy face since I didn't want to ruin the day. Later, when my Mill comforted me after noticing I was off, Sarah again accused me, this time louder, of trying to make the day about myself. I didn't say anything, but my husband saw it all and decided we should leave early for the sake of my mental health since the miscarriage was recent, and we were still grieving. We stayed until nearly everyone had left and then quietly slipped out. Later that night, Sarah called me crying, saying I ruined her day. I kept calm and didn't want to stress her out since she's pregnant, after all, so I told her gently to focus on herself and not on petty drama. She got offended at the word petty and said I was disregarding her feelings. I was exhausted and just wanted to sleep, so I apologized just to end the conversation. Then a few days later, she showed up at our house. I thought she was going to continue the argument, but it was worse. She asked for the baby blanket and crib that my Mill gave me during my pregnancy, the ones I never got to use. I was completely shocked. That stuff is in a nursery we haven't touched since the miscarriage. These were items that were deeply personal. They were part of the joy I had during that pregnancy. After the miscarriage, we put everything in a nursery that we haven't touched since. It's painful for both me and my husband to even walk past that room. It's half finished, full of items from that time. Neither of us has had the emotional strength to go in there, let alone pack things away. I was stunned. I told her that my husband wasn't home and I'd have to talk to him. That was a lie. I had no intention of giving her those things, ever, but I was panicking. We'd never interacted one-on-one like that before. There was always my husband or in-laws around. I didn't know if she might just take the things while I stood there. She's pregnant, so I couldn't physically stop her, and I wouldn't risk hurting her. So I said what I had to say to de-escalate. She insisted that my husband would understand, and that my Mill was okay with it. That stung. I just repeated that we'd talk and get back to her. Eventually she left, saying she'd come back when my husband was around. When he came home and I told him, he was furious. He called his mom and told her to give Sarah something else, anything else from Mark's childhood. But the things meant for our baby were not hers to take. My mill said she had no idea Sarah had even come over. My husband then told Mark, who had a talk with Sarah. Instead of any kind of apology or understanding, she doubled down and started throwing the same accusations she's always thrown about me being jealous, about me hating her. I don't remember the whole conversation because it was the same old script, until she said something that broke me. She said I didn't deserve the baby stuff because I wasn't pregnant and was just wasting it. When I argued back and told her how hurtful that was, she responded, "I'm glad you don't have kids because you'd probably be stingy and territorial with them too." I was stunned. I couldn't breathe. I don't think I've ever heard anything more cruel in my life. My husband immediately told them both to get out. He shouted, which I don't blame him for. That's when Mark got pissed and said, "You can't talk to my wife like that." And my husband responded, "She has no business being in our house if she's going to act like this." Some back and forth happened. Mark called me a B, which hit me hard. It hurt more than I expected, from someone who once supported me through one of the worst moments of my life. It felt like a betrayal of everything. My husband then punched Mark and kicked them out. After they left, I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to do anything else. I cried the whole day. It felt like all the progress I'd made in coping with the loss of our baby was gone. My husband was equally devastated not just by what they said to me, but by what his own brother had become, which I hadn't noticed until that very moment. We've decided to cut ties with them. We told my mill to handle things going forward. She's not pressuring us and understands. And to help me heal a bit, my husband planned a sweet little date night. It did help, a little. But I still can't stop wondering why Sarah would say something so cruel. I know we weren't close. We were BY, passive-aggressive, digging, subtle jabs, the classic not passing the salt type of drama. Maybe I dismissed it as trivial, but maybe it wasn't trivial to her. Maybe the gossiping in high school about her and Mark stayed with her. Maybe my being introduced into the family while she was in one of her off phases with Mark hurt more than I realized. Maybe the fact that my mill and I had more one-on-one time stung her. But I never tried to hurt her. I just didn't feel welcome enough to build a relationship. She always seemed cold and distant. I figured she just wasn't interested in being friends. And the jealousy thing. I honestly don't know where it comes from. Mark clearly loves her. Their relationship may be rocky, but there's no lack of love. So I don't get the paranoia about me. It's exhausting and insulting to both her and my relationship. I'm not denying that her behavior warrants us cutting ties, but I can't help wondering if I could have done better in the past. Maybe I could have tried harder, been warmer, and pushed past her coldness. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm hurt. I don't think I deserve the way she behaved. And something I haven't said out loud to anyone yet. I think I might be pregnant again. I haven't taken a test. I've been putting it off, maybe out of fear, maybe out of hope. I've noticed the symptoms that don't feel like my usual anxiety. I keep telling myself it could be anything. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe it's all in my head. Maybe it's just wishful thinking because deep down I want it to be true so badly. I want another chance. But at the same time, I'm absolutely terrified that it is true. What if my body fails me again? What if I let myself hope only to grieve again? What if I'm not strong enough this time? I am so scared. And then there's the other side. What if I am pregnant and Sarah finds out? She's already proven how insecure and reactive she can be. If she thought I was stealing her spotlight before, what is she going to do when I have actual news? She might weaponize my past against me, my abortion, my miscarriage. I don't want my possible pregnancy to feel like some kind of twisted competition. It's not. I want peace. I want healing. I want to carry this baby without fear or defensiveness, only with quiet hope and love. But even the possibility of being pregnant feels like a burden right now, because I don't know how to protect that space for myself without feeling like I have to defend it from her. I know I can't hide it forever if it's real. I also know that if I'm not pregnant, or if I can't get pregnant again, I still want to know my niece or nephew, and I want to be a good aunt. I don't want Sarah or Mark to take that away from me, but I think they did. I feel fragile. I feel exhausted, and I don't know what to do next. TLDR. I, 27F, have been married to my husband, 31M, for 2 years, and I've known his brother, Mark, 28M, for years. Mark's wife, Sarah, and I have never gotten along, mainly due to her jealousy and passive-aggressive behavior. After a traumatic miscarriage, Sarah showed no empathy, even accusing me of being jealous when she was pregnant and asking for baby items meant for my lost pregnancy. After a fight, Mark called me a B, and my husband punched him. Now we've cut ties with them. But I'm still hurting and wondering if I could have done more to improve our relationship. On top of that, I suspect I might be pregnant again, and I'm scared of both the potential heartbreak and how Sarah might react. I'm conflicted about what to do next. Comments. Comment 1. I think you need to take this one step at a time. I'm assuming since you had a decorated nursery, this was a later loss miscarriage, which can be absolutely heartbreaking. One of my friends went through 2 late losses, and it was incredibly difficult. The first thing you should do is regain a bit of safety and security between you and your husband. It sounds like you both have a really safe and nurturing relationship, but this is a time to be super open and vulnerable together. Second, knowledge is power. You should find out whether or not you are pregnant, so you can make the best decisions for you and your possible pregnancy. Third, if you aren't pregnant, consider packing up the nursery bit by bit for the time being. You cannot live in a mausoleum of what could have been. Fourth, get some individual counseling. You have to remember that Sarah made choices that impacted the relationship she has with you, your husband, and your in-laws. How you respond to those actions is incredibly valid, but you might want to work through some of those doubts about how you spoke about Sarah in hindsight. OP. Yes, it was later on and completely heartbreaking, but I had made my peace with it. Just hearing that I was wasting the things my mill so lovingly gave me hit so hard. It brought back a lot of grief. As for finding out about my pregnancy, I agree with you. It's just that I freak out every single time. I bought one test, and it's in my drawer unopened. I don't see how it could go peacefully. If I am, she'll destroy the entire experience. If not, my grief will. But I will soon. Clearing out the nursery is something I and my husband discussed many times. But as soon as we enter the room, I break down. I don't know how to deal with that. I do individual therapy twice a week, and lately we've been only talking about Sarah, so my miscarriage isn't being dealt with. Once all this dies down, I'll try again. Thank you. Comment 2. I'm not trying to victim blame, but you're an adult, and you need to learn to set boundaries. You don't get to show up to my house unannounced and try and fight with me. You both should have slammed the door shut on Sarah days ago. She is a narcissist, and you do not do yourself any favors trying to convince her to be nice. If anyone asks why you've cut them out, you explain to them in bullet points how terrible Sarah had been, and you move on. OP. I completely understand your point. We did kick her out, though, both times, when she came over to ask for my baby stuff, and then again when she crossed the line. I don't convince myself or her that she's going to be nice. But you don't have to be nice to not attack someone regarding their grief. Being a decent human being is enough for that. But it seems that she can't do that either. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.